What's going on, everybody? We are back with another weekly episode. I hope everyone is having happy holidays. We got Christmas coming up, so I'm sure everyone's out there shopping for their loved ones. Ross, a ton of things to talk about. I think it's fair to open up the show talking about Marcus Banks, the cornerback out of the Alabama Crimson Tide that entered the transfer portal. According to 24/7 Sports, there were crystal balls in the direction headed to the University of Miami. It seemed like a done deal from the outside. Obviously, these are human beings. They change their mind all the time. Perfect example is Ricky Williams wanted to declare for the NFL draft, gets on the press conference stage, says, I'm coming back for his senior year. Avonte Williams is another example. They're human beings. They change their mind. Let's get down to it. Marcus Banks chooses Mississippi State over Miami. This is a loss. This was a swing and miss.
Yeah, I mean, I was really hoping we can get a plug-and-play guy there. It's not to say that it's over with in the cornerback, talk. We can still go after some guys and get some guys in the portal, but it's a little upsetting. I can't lie. I was really hoping for that one there. But at the same time, I also understand his desire as an SEC player to stay in the SEC because he understands the level of competition. So I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised. I think everyone was surprised. It seemed, from the outside, just hearing the crystal balls and, just confidence that there was expectation that Marcus Banks would be a Miami Hurricane. He'd be a cornerback presence that we need in the rotation, and we'll have a solid group moving forward. It is what it is. He chooses Mississippi State. I guess the thing is that there's tons of players every day going into the transfer portal that maybe Marcus Banks at this time, was a big take for Miami, and then a month later they find someone better. That's how the portal works. You never know who's going to enter. So it's not the end of the world. Did we expect him to come here and I think he would have made an impact? Yeah, I believe so.
I trust Cristobal. Whenever these big names enter the portal, I know he's going to do his due diligence into looking them up and seeing if they're a fit for Miami. And if he wants to go after him, he's going to go after him. We know how tenacious he is in recruiting and on the portal. So I trust that if the right name pops in there, we're going to definitely be going after it and we'll be one of the top schools.
What do you think are some positions we need to address from the portal specifically? I think we need to address wide receiver play, at least get someone on the outside primarily. I think Frank Latson fits that build. I think cornerback would be great. I think a linebacker and then defensive lineman. I think those 4 position units would be outstanding.
I can't argue with any of those at all, Paul. And I'll tell you what, even if we find a premier type of pass rushing defensive end that we want to bring in, I have no problems loading up on pass rusher either, dude. Seriously, especially a guy with some experience. Big one for me is getting that outside wide receiver with a little bit of size and a little length. I think that's a big one going for us forward. And I think Cristobal feels the same way.
I agree. Linebacker play needs a lot of help. 100%. Yes. I believe edge rushers as well. Jacob Lichtstein, by the way, I mean, on Instagram, he uploaded a photo. The guy is jacked. Yeah. The guy is like jacked, and he's like 6'7". Tremendously impressed.
Huge dude.
We're gonna need to get guys from the portal. I think linebacker play is the priority in my opinion. That's a mandatory get. We can't miss on there.
Absolutely. I mean, while we might have a couple intriguing young pieces coming up, especially like the Chase Smiths of the world, a little more hybridish, but still, we need to get somebody we can plug and play week 1 in there that can help us right away. I believe that wholeheartedly because of what we saw last year. We need that help. Seriously, we need that help.
I know this Terrence Lewis has been a popular name. I think he was a take under Manny. I don't think he's a take under Mario. I could be wrong. Ross, do you think Terrence Lewis ends up being a Miami Hurricane?
I have actually heard some stuff recently about that, Paul. Some that might a little bit of info that might make me feel like that there might be somewhat of a small door opening for him at the University of Miami. I'm not saying he's a take. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it sounds like the possibility of contact and a connection and a relationship being formed are a possibility. Trust me, this is the type of situation where they could go, okay, look, we're interested in him as a football player. We're evaluating him off the field. And then within a week or two, we start hearing about, hey, we're just not interested. It can go either way that way.
It's going to be interesting. Every day, something new is going to happen in the transfer portal. Got to be patient. I'm sure they have Terrence Lewis in contact saying, hey, we're just evaluating all options right now. And look, things are made behind the scenes, I feel like, in the transfer portal. College football is a small world. People talk, they make connections, bridges are being made. So they're speaking amongst each other before they enter the portal. It's not like they're coming in surprise and everyone's just going after the guy. I mean, there's rumor mills everywhere. People are in contact beforehand.
We'll be involved with the top names. I have no doubt about it, especially with at the positions of need. Any kid who's looking to, especially make an upgrade anywhere that we're high on, we're gonna go full speed for him. I guarantee it.
Before we talk about coaching staff, because I do want to get to that Lucky Luciano, Jason Jones, defensive tackle, 4-star recruit. Ross, was he an Oregon commit? Give the backstory to the viewers and where things stand.
Oregon commit, massive human being on the defensive line. I want to say he's like 6'5.5", 6'6.5". Carries his weight well. The only thing that's been an issue with him is people haven't seen him play as physically or as strong as they want to see him on a snap-by-snap basis. I don't know if that's, development issue or what, if it's a mental issue. But no matter what, he's got the upside that we want there, and I'm pretty sure that Cristobal can continue to get him right with his coaching.
Guys, hit the subscribe button if you want to see Jason Jones at the University of Miami. Hit the like button if you want an announcement from the OC and DC coming soon. I'm dying for that. I'm being very impatient. There's no rush, but hit the like button if you're dying to know who the coordinators are going to be at the University of Miami. I think that would be great.
We mentioned it before. What Cristobal's doing without the coordinators is pretty amazing, but we can do even more and bigger and better things with the coordinators in place.
Look, once we have a full staff, recruiting is going to be a tear on the trail. I mean, we don't even have anyone officially on staff yet. Alex Mirabal, he hasn't even been officially named by the University of Miami. Brian McClendon, the wide receivers coach, the news broke from Footballville Nation. I guess an Oregon fan found out through the University of Miami website of employees that his email, his name is on there as a member on the coaching staff. So it seems to be like he's good to go if he's on the University of Miami employee website.
Everything I've heard, it sounds like that's a good to go for us in just a matter of time. And I want to bring up some of these names that he has recruited, Paul. He's not just recruited well at his position. He's also recruited really well at running back. 5-star running back Isaiah Crowell. 5-star running back Keith Marshall. He's also did 5-star weak side defensive end Lorenzo Carter. 5-star running back Sony Michel, 5-star running back Nick Chubb, 4-star 2021 wide receiver Troy Franklin. He also has 4-star running back Todd Gurley, 4-star offensive guard Isaiah Wynn. And then you go down the list even more, you start finding J.C. Horn, Isaiah McKenzie, and Tay Crowder were all involved with him too. So, I mean, dude, he's got a hell of a makeup in recruiter.
That's extremely impressive list. He's one of the best recruiters in the nation. He was awarded, I think, Pac-12 Recruiter of the Year, I think at one point during his time at Oregon. So pretty impressive resume, pretty impressive list of players. I think it would be a great addition to the coaching staff. And like I said, it hasn't been officially announced, but all indications seems like he will be the next wide receivers coach at the University of Miami.
He's going to bring those recruiting chops with him to Miami, guys, and we're going to have him and Cristobal doing what they did at Oregon, trying to recreate that at Miami.
Outstanding. Now, running backs coach. Oregon's running back coach and run game coordinator, Jim Mastro. Do you think he can make, the push to be the running backs coach at the University of Miami? I don't know if Coach Hickson will be retained. I don't know. But I do know Jim Mastro has worked under Mario Cristobal at Oregon. And I'm sure they have a great relationship. And if we're bringing over the wide receivers coach, we might be bringing over the run game coordinator as well.
31 years in the game for Mastro. He's been listening for a long time. I believe he was going into his 4th season with Oregon, or last year might have been his 4th. I'm not quite sure. But a guy who, while he can recruit and he gets involved with it, it seems to be that he's a little more involved with development. He'll get involved with some of the bigger name running backs and stuff, but I've noticed the other names on their staff have really swung for the fence more. There's a player that he got, though, and it was at his time at Washington State, and it's really got what intrigues me is he recruited Max Borghi. Anybody who's aware of him knows that he's basically like the diet version of Christian McCaffrey. He will be an NFL player, and he was just a middle-ranked 3-star out of nowhere. And he really found him and turned him into a good player. And he also found River Craycraft while he was there, who was another low-ranked 3-star that ended up in the NFL as well at wide receiver and special teams. So he can identify talent that might be a little bit hidden at times.
I think Jim Mastro, I think it'll be a solid hire. Doesn't matter who's the running backs coach at Miami. You can have from Tim Ice Harris, Coach Hickson, Jim Mastro, Don Solinger. Well, Don Solinger preferably. I mean, his resume speaks for itself.
Yeah.
We're always going to reload at the running back position unit. Always. We're going to have NFL talent. That's just the nature of the beast that coming to the University of Miami. Kane Freak 2001 3X, $50 donation. Thank you so much, man. We greatly appreciate your support. And the 184 people listening right now. So Kane Freak 2001 3X, thank you so much again for your generous donation. Paul, defensive end Shamar Stewart will sign with Miami. Just trust me on this one. Trust me. I'm going to hold you to that, to Kane Freak 2001 3X. If we land Shamar Stewart, I'm telling you, that would be incredible. That will be a huge win, especially over Texas A&M, who is killing it in recruiting right now, Ross.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. If we're competing with the likes of Texas A&M without our coordinators set up yet, and Cristobal not even being here for a month, dude, just imagine what the future holds. I mean, dude, it's unbelievable to think of what could truly happen at Miami.
So here's my thing with Jim Mastro. He's a run game coordinator, correct?
Yeah, running back coach, run game coordinator.
Do you think this is opening the door for a pass game coordinator in the NFL or somewhere in college football to come in the sense of we have our two OCs. You have your pass game coordinator and you have your run game coordinator, basically. And then maybe the primary play caller.
I could see that, especially if it's a guy in special areas that we trust immensely, So I can see us going after that quarterback coach / pass game coordinator in the NFL. I can see that definitely. If it's not our top option, it's among our top 1 or 2 or 3 options.
Look, I understand the name Kendall Browse is floating around. We'll see. I would, if he comes, great. I just think if he was the guy, he would already be signed by now.
I think the buzz would be a lot heavier. I agree completely.
We'll see. Would you guys be happy with Ken Dorsey? Hit the like button if you'd be happy with Ken Dorsey as your offensive coordinator. Hit subscribe for Kendall Browse. I want to hear your points. Remember, keep in mind, if we hire Jim Mastro as run game coordinator, you bring in Ken Dorsey as the pass game coordinator and primary play caller. I think that could be a pretty nice balance. Just worry about the pass game.
I think Dorsey would be a great fit for us. I've made mention to you on here before about how his work with Josh Allen intrigues me with the quarterbacks that we have. Big arm guys, and then a guy like Jacurri, who is a superior athlete, a dual threat guy who still needs a little fine tuning. Josh Allen was that coming into the pros. Look at what Dorsey's been able to do with him. I would be very intrigued to see what he could do with our quarterbacks.
Over 210 people watching us live, 14 minutes in. If you don't want Dorsey, say why you don't want him. I understand the concern of play calling. I get that. You want someone with experience calling plays. I like his NFL experience. If you don't want him, tell me why in the comment section. If you do want him, tell me why you want him. Tell me the OC you would want, basically, in the chat and why. Now, moving over to the defensive side of the football, Ross. Charlie Partridge on social media. There was a tweet out saying that he had a deadline with Pittsburgh. It was a specific date. Basically, by the end of the week, if they did not match the offer Miami gave him, he will be heading to the University of Miami. Well, it seems like Pittsburgh, at least, I don't know if they matched it. They gave him enough to decline the University of Miami offer. Charlie Partridge will not be coming to the University of Miami, and he said he will be staying at Pitt on Twitter for another year at least. That's official.
Kind of bummed about that, man. I mean, he's a guy who I've been targeting for 2 strong years now, 2 full solid years. So where does that leave us now? It kind of leaves us with Joe Salave, the defensive line coach from Oregon. I think that's the name that will be focused on going forward.
Yeah, I mean, Ross, do you know anything about Joe Salave? I mean, I haven't done my research. I'll be honest, Charlie Partridge would have been a home run hire It's unfortunate he's going to stay at Pittsburgh. I guess they gave him a raise, the appropriate amount, or potentially matched Miami's offer. What are your thoughts about Joe Salovey?
One heck of a recruiter and a guy who can recruit very well outside of his position. He does a good job on the defensive line as well as getting defensive ends. He's responsible for Kayvon Thibodeau, 5-star inside linebacker Noah Sewell, 4-star offensive lineman Kingsley Sumatatia, and he also was the guy who got Penei Sewell to come in as well, dude. So, I mean, he's got quite the list of recruiting of what he can do. And on top of that, he was involved with Jason Jones and Grayson Halton. Grayson Halton's a 2022 kid that we're going after right now who will be visiting in January. And Jason Jones is the Oregon defensive lineman commit that we're interested in right now.
All right. Well, Joe Salovey seems like the leading candidate for the defensive line job. Seems like my projection of the staff will be Jim Mastro, running backs coach, Maribal, O-line coach. Seems like Maribal, Brian McClendon are in. Joe Salovey. So that seems like roughly, 4 guys from Oregon coming over, Ross?
Yeah. And I believe that there's a strong possibility that those 4 guys could truly be coming over and being employees at Miami.
Hey, you're going to bring people over from your staff. I think it's a good addition. Some of those names, I would have loved Charlie Partridge. Would have loved it.
Yeah.
Ross, do you think Travaris Robinson stays on board after this offseason?
I do. With the DBs that we brought in, I believe that that's kind of something that they would want to hear as well. We've got some amazing DBs coming, especially at cornerback, So I really think that confidence level of knowing who their coach is going to be and knowing that they're going to have a really good teacher like T-Rob, I think that was a big deal for us getting these guys. So I do believe he'll be staying on the staff at Miami.
Who do you think, in my opinion, I think Coach Schumann out of Georgia, the co-defensive coordinator, is the primary target for the defensive coordinator position at Miami. Do you agree with that? I mean, I think that's who we're going for. They already have a good relationship. I think you mentioned this past show, they're going to push for Will Muschamp to be the defensive coordinator at Georgia. I think that would be a solid hire. Any other name you can think of Miami goes after at DC?
Derek Mason was the name that was kind of brought up, recently. I'm not quite sure how heavily invested we are in that or how much we've looked into it, but he's definitely a name that came up. But I agree. I think Schumann's the guy. I think that the pedigree that went on at the defense, and especially in recruiting at Georgia, how much Cristobal loves to be surrounded by elite recruiters. I think that he wants to bring in a guy just like that to prove that he can handle a full load on defense.
Any chance of Joe Brady coming? Well, it was reported by Barry Jackson, the Miami Herald, there were serious conversations. He declined the offer ultimately from the University of Miami. I think he's still pursuing coaching opportunities in the NFL. But that ship has sailed with Joe Brady. I would be in shock if he comes around and signs back on with Miami. He was their first choice. Yeah. He was their first choice.
Definitely. Definitely was their first choice. But I've heard zero buzz since we've gotten that announcement that he was going to be looking for a job in the NFL.
Anything we have not covered on staff, Ross? I feel like I missed on something we wanted to talk about.
The only other guy that, that's really playing a role right now coming in, would be Maribel, coaching at the offensive line for us. A supreme teacher, an amazing developer, and a guy who can get involved in recruiting as well. I think what's important with Maribel going forward, he's going to be one of those guys who, while we're going after these Oregon guys, they have ties to them. They know them really well. David Luley, 4-star interior offensive lineman, is going to be visiting in January. Maribel was responsible for getting him to Oregon.
There was I won't specifically reference the show. I think people were a little bit they were curious. They didn't understand it a little bit. Former Miami Hurricane alumni is the proper word. Tavares Gooden was on a show with Christopher Stock, and he wanted to see the I formation come back to the University of Miami offensively. Believe kind of that's kind of old school Mario Cristobal's playbook offensively to bring it back. I know there were people who were very against it. Not sure where it came out of. present day college football, you never see anyone go under center unless you're running like a triple option or you're in the goal line, the red zone, right? I mean, you're never going under center, rarely. I feel like there's for Don Chaney specifically, I would have loved to have him with a blocker, with a fullback in front of him, leading him. But I feel like our best player offensively is Tyler Van Dyke, and we need to cater around him and help him be the best quarterback he can be coming off of this outstanding season. Like, that's my opinion on the offense, is get an OC that is very familiar with quarterbacks, experienced with good quarterbacks, and can develop QBs, because this is probably Tyler Van Dyke's last year. And so I don't think going under center, running a pro style offense would suit Tyler Van Dyke well after what we saw this past season.
You got to maximize this guy while he's still here, and they have to be aware of that it's like you mentioned, it's temporary. He's not here forever. TVD showed superior arm talent last year. There's no reason to not keep trying to build on that and keep progressing with that. While we might see the occasional little mix in of a little old school Cristobal football in certain situations, we might see that occasionally. But I believe that we're going to go into this more with a look into the future and with the spread offense in mind.
I agree. No, I agree. Whoever we bring in as an offensive coordinator, we're going to go spread. Our running backs, actually, Don Chaney, hopefully he gets better next season, but we're going to have a really solid running back unit. Next season, a lot of thick bodies, a lot of big guys. Thad Franklin, Cody Brown, Don Chaney, those are big guys. I mean, really short yardage situations, you have three solid options, and then Jalen Knighton's kind of your shifty running back, electrifying player, makes the first man miss a lot of times. We're gonna have a nice group offensively. Add in, an outside wide receiver you can count on, deep ball threats. I mean, people are doubting Frank Latson in the chat. We'll see. I would love to see him as a Miami Hurricane.
Yeah.
I think this could be a good season offensively, but it starts with your OC.
I hope that we see a lot more guys like Brashard Smith. We saw him in the backfield a little bit occasionally, getting the ball in his hand in space. I'd love to see that happen more and more and more as we go forward, because he's absolutely electric.
All right, Anthony's going to just keep rumbling if I don't say this. Who do you think is the best tight ends coach in the nation, Ross, and do you think he'll come to Miami?
I don't know who the best in the nation is, but I'll tell you what, right here, flat out, I love Coach Field, man. I love that guy. I love his recruiting ability, and I know he can develop. So I'm more than happy keeping the guy that we currently got, straight up.
Yeah, I think Coach Fields definitely earned a non-position role. I know previously, before the Jaleel Skinner commitment, we were saying, hey, we'd love to have him on staff, maybe as a recruiting role primarily. We were kind of debating, well, what if we bring in a guy like Tim Brewster, who knows the South Florida area? He's very well connected in Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Palm Beach County. You bring in him and pair him with Coach Fields on the recruiting trail, it can be a killer combination. Well, now it's like, well, Coach Fields, he just reeled in Jaleel Skinner really by himself, and then Mario coming in, I'm sure with some assistance at the end. But I mean, I think he's earned every penny he makes next year. Tremendous job reeling in literally a potentially 5-star recruit, Jaleel Skinner.
You don't just accidentally flip someone like that from Bama unless you know what you're doing, or unless you can instill confidence in that player to make that move. No problem going forward with Coach Field there. I did like, and you mentioned it, I like the idea of Brewster possibly as more developmental role possibly, and then Field recruiting, but I want to give Field a shot. I want to give him a shot genuinely to see what he can do with his handpicked guys.
And I agree. I think James Coley, you put him as, like a tight ends coach position unit, primary recruiter role. Yeah, I think that would be a great hire as well. But I think Coach Fields needs to stay on staff no matter what. Hell, give him a raise.
You've heard me refer to him before, Paul, as I refer to him as the chameleon. He's a guy who can go anywhere at any time and be anybody you need him to be. He can go the same day from a private school and then go, straight to the inner city if he needs to. I mean, he can do it seamlessly and flawlessly, and he can relate with everybody along the way in a positive way.
All right, guys, over 290 people joining us live, 25 minutes in. Hit the like button if you want to see Coach Fields retained on this coaching staff, and hit subscribe if you think we can crash the top 25 in recruiting for the 2022 class. Now, speaking of that class, guys, Steve Wiltfong actually made a good point about the University of Miami's recruiting class for 2022. He said this is one of the better classes in the nation. Mm-hmm. It's just It's really the amount of quality they had. They don't have a lot of people signed in the class. They just have a lot of 4-star recruits. 8 out of 9 are 4-star, Ross.
Quality over quantity right now,
Very good.
especially, yeah. With the way Diaz left us, that's the route we had to go for now, though, Paul. We had to find some elite talent and some top-notch talent to add to this class. While there might be some sleepers or some 3-star guys that are under the radar right now that we might go after eventually, we needed to target these main guys and bring them in so we could at least make sure that this 2020 class was at least top-heavy with talent.
I'll tell you what, guys. If Kane Freak 2001 3X, if he's right, we land Shamar Stewart. Kevin Coleman, look, Steve Wilfong even put in a crystal ball for Kevin Coleman to the University of Miami, and this was like a couple days ago. Steve Wilfong's like one of the national directors of 24/7 Sports. I mean, he's pretty tied in. Cyrus Moss, I don't know, Ross. I think you and me are confident. We think he could be signing with Miami. We don't know. USC may be a player, but Miami's in the top 2.
We made a big impression on him, and he made that pretty clear during his interview with us. And he recently actually shut down his whole interview process. He's going to be doing no more interviews until he commits. So even though things have stayed under the rug now, I think they're going to stay even more under the rug now going forward. He seems to be a guy that really values his privacy and really values this process being taken care of without media hype or anybody influencing it outside of it. He wants his family and himself to be who's ultimately making the choice.
You throw in those 3 guys, they signed to the class. You throw in a 4-star Ahmad Moden, who recently just got the bump, defensive lineman out of Cardinal Gibbons. That's 12 out of 13 players with 4 stars. That's incredible. I think that gets you in the top 20.
I'd love to see Moten, man, at Miami. I think Moten, with his quickness at his size, he can play a valuable role for us on the defensive line going forward. I really do.
Was Steve Wiltfong the same guy who crystalballed Marcus Banks to Miami? If someone else can confirm that, go for it. Because I don't know. I don't know. But I will say, Miami was second. Mississippi State just beat him last second. It seems like it.
I didn't know there was much hype from Mississippi at all, especially more hype than Miami. Everything was drawn to Miami. But like I said, that draw of the SEC, that might have been what ultimately kept him there.
And I hate to say this. That could be a little sketchy. A surprise school coming out of nowhere, landing a recruit. Who knows what was done? I don't know. I'm not trying to be that douchebag tonight, but it was weird. It was weird.
It kind of came out of nowhere, dude. It felt a little bit off because all the hype was focused around Marcus Banks coming to Miami. Basically, all the media hype was focused around that.
All right. Hey Ross, what's going on with Florence? I know that's one of your favorite recruits. You're really passionate about. Why do you like him a lot, and why do you think Miami has a shot?
Ultimate competitor and a playmaker on defense. He can do a little bit of everything already, and he just plays with a tenacity that you can just see through his film. He plays like he's on fire, basically. And it's a guy who we're going to be getting to visit Miami in January, and it's a guy that I truly believe T-Rob is going to be trying to lock down because he fits his system perfectly, dude, to a T.
Yeah. No, I think that would be incredible. I think we're looking at a lot more bigger size at the D-line offensive line position unit. Pick up on that. We're not looking at a lot of undersized offensive linemen. We're going for some big profiles and in the trenches in general. So just look out for that.
Cristobal understands how important it is to mimic what the SEC schools are doing in terms of starting depth starting and in depth. We're going to see the depth at Miami improve quite a bit. While it's going to be young depth coming in for a while, while we get things accustomed and built, we'll see those transfer portal guys come in as well and play their role, just temporarily for us. But the focus will definitely be on recruiting.
All right. Ross, anything you want to mention? 30 minutes in, over 320 people joining us. Thank you guys so much. If you want to support this channel, hit subscribe, hit the like button. We would greatly appreciate it.
I made a mention of him earlier. Canes fans, I think you should take a look at interior offensive lineman, the 4-star I mentioned, Dave Luley. He's from Puyallup, Washington. I think that he is a great fit for what we want to do going forward, and he would be the type of guy who can come in and give us something that we might not be, something that we might be lacking on the offensive line right now. He's a bruiser. He can flat out maul.
I will say this, guys, because I know people are asking about Frank Latson, what happened to Marcus Banks. If these guys don't sign to Miami, it's not the end of the world. every day people are pouring into the portal. That guy Henry Toto, the linebacker. Did he come out of Tennessee, or
Yeah,
was it? Okay, he came out of Tennessee late, really late, and I think he's a great linebacker.
yeah.
Jawan Mitchell left Tennessee as well, really late. Just be patient. Maybe these takes right now we're missing. Maybe it's a good thing. It's not the end of the world.
I trust Cristobal, man. I've made mention of that before. I trust him. We're going to be in this when the right names show up and the right names pop up. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And Cristobal himself is tenacious out there trying to get the players he wants. He knows what it takes. He knows the value of creating these relationships and carrying them forward into the future.
Yeah. So offensive coordinator. Jeff's asking. I think it's either going to be Kendall Briles, Ken Dorsey, or someone we haven't heard yet, and which is kind of nerve wracking because I have no idea who else I can consider. A West Coast guy.
I mean, if it's not a guy who's going to be fighting for one of these top bowl games, and that's what we're waiting for, I'd be surprised then if it wasn't a guy in the NFL. I honestly believe that we have our eyes set on a pass game coordinator / quarterback coach, that type of option from the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. All right. 32 minutes in. Ross, anything you want to add? If you guys have any questions you want to talk about, by all means. Quick show. We do it on the fly. Anything you want to talk about, just bring it up, hit it in the comment chat.
Man, I just, you know how high I am on Cyrus Moss. I really hope we make that happen, dude. I mean, it'd be so big for us going forward. I mean, a Bishop Gorman elite edge guy with that kind of athleticism. He's got all the makeup that it takes to be an NFL player in the future. And he's the type of guy, you look at his frame and you look at his makeup, he can put on that needed muscle and still not lose that athleticism. That's what's kind of freakish and special about Cyrus Moss.
Yeah, he's along the lines of development. He's lean, he's strong, he's a big guy. He's 6'5", 220 pounds, from a great high school in Bishop Gorman Senior High School. He's a take. He's not a project in the weight room, which is what I love.
If you guys haven't gotten familiar with Grayson Halton yet, the 4-star defensive edge in the 2022 class committed to Oregon, get familiar with him. I can see why we want him visiting in January. He's a guy who should probably be pretty high on our list going forward in the 2022 class, I bet.
All right, let's do some questions. Brandon Tukes, I heard we were getting a guy from the Georgia Bulldogs. Any news on that? I think Schumann's the guy at DC. I think that's the main priority. I'll stand by it.
I agree completely. I see no other reason for us to really go a different direction right now, and at least until we exercise all of our options and due diligence with Schumann.
Anthony, I'm assuming you mean T. Martin, whose son signed to play baseball at the University of Miami. Look, I'm for it. That's completely fine. I just think if he was going to be the offensive coordinator, he would already be announced. That's why I think it's someone that maybe no one's even thinking about. They're either in the NFL or they're coaching in a major bowl game.
I don't see why we're not swinging for the fences on this, and that would mean going after a big name guy at a big name school or going for the NFL, a well-known name that's helped in the pass game or helped develop quarterbacks. Because my focus is TVD. You mentioned it as well. The focus needs to be on TVD and maximizing his talent going forward, and thinking about the future. Jake Garcia and Ja'Cory Brown. We've got two promising young guys there as well. So I want to focus on quarterback going forward. I really do.
Would you rather have Cyrus Moss or Shamar Stewart? I think both, to be honest. I think both players, pick your poison. I mean, it's kind of like that. I think both are extremely great players, man. I really do.
They both offer a little something different, even though they're both athletically very, very supreme. But you go after both those guys. You know, you don't want one or the other in that scenario. You want to have an elite coach, get the elite recruits that we're targeting and we're building relationships with. But man, I mean, no knock on Moss at all, just because he's ranked a little lower. He's just as special.
Does Mario call his own plays? I believe it's Joe Moorhead was calling the plays for Oregon this past season. It was a run-heavy offense as well. He got the job at Akron as the head football coach. I think previously he was the head coach at Mississippi State, but he was very run-heavy during his time at Oregon. I think it's going to change a little bit, bringing in a more passing, heavy-minded coach, just my opinion.
Yeah, I think our offense will be spread out more than what they had at Oregon. I don't know if it was like a trust issue with the quarterback or what it was, but I believe that we're going to have things spread out more, and it's going to look more like a modern-day NFL offense going forward. Cristobal himself saw that change in Miami, saw that we have the players to make that happen, and that we have the young players to keep making it happen. So there's no reason not to do it.
Burgie asks, who do you think we have the best shot at Ross signing between now and February? That would be considered a huge get.
Man, I'm high on Cyrus Moss coming to Miami. I am. I'm high on Cyrus Moss picking Miami. The way he explained to us the decision and needing the extra time after he got involved with something that changed his recruiting, changed the whole scene of his recruiting, like he said. The only big change there was Cristobal being at Miami. And, Lincoln Riley, don't get me wrong, big change over there. But he's a West Coast guy. He's more familiar with what's going on over there, and he has a better grasp on that. It was the East Coast draw and having Miami come out of absolutely nowhere that I believe is what pushed him back on his announcement. I truly believe that. And if so, that's a good sign for us, man.
Reggie Cromartie asks, does Mario get a player from Oregon? I know a lot of people have been screaming Justin Flowe's name.
Yeah, if Flo could become a part of this, dude, it'd be absolutely incredible because we know how much we need him. I think Jason Jones is going to be the guy that, at least for the time being, we're really going to try to lay in on there and get to the University of Miami because he's such a physical presence on the defensive line. He's a massive player who's very, very athletic for his size.
Jason Jones, Justin Flowe at linebacker, great pickups.
I would love it, man. I would love it.
Complete 180 for the linebacker room.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
David Luley as well, like I was mentioning, that guy, the interior offensive lineman, another guy from Oregon that's tied to Oregon. And Grayson Holton is a 2022 commit to Oregon. So you guys can see the theme that we're going with here. We're going to be heavy involved with these current players from Oregon, at least in the 2022 and 2023 class, because that's what they're familiar with. It's what they've been doing for the last 2 years. So it's familiarity speaks volumes in college football, guys.
I love how we're going after players like we would have no shot in hell with, like if we had the previous staff. Like this all changes with Mario. It's like a completely different mentality.
It's swing for the fences, dude. And it's not just swing for the fences. It's swing for the fences and actually hit some of those home runs, bro. Look at these guys, Skinner, Kelly, being involved with Coleman already. Dude, these are names that I'll repeat exactly what you said. This last coaching staff would have had absolutely no chance at reeling them in.
The closer actually asked a good question. What do we do to fill in the gaps at the linebacker position unit until we can build it organically? Great question. First things first, get a good defensive coordinator that has coached linebackers previously. Let him oversee the linebacker unit. Add on guys such as Terrence Lewis, Justin Flowe, that can be day one impact players, starters in your position unit, whether they're playing inside linebacker, whatever scheme you're going to run. If it's a 4-2-5, 4-3, 3-4, whatever you're running, plug them in. Make sure they're the appropriate profile for that scheme, and then just let them play, and they'll start day one. Get guys like Wesley Besaint on board, okay? I think getting guys like Wesley Besaint, Justin Flowe, Terrence Lewis, and having a good coach to oversee your linebacker unit, I think that would help a lot. I think those are great steps, and I think we're about to mark 2 out of those 3 steps, and I think we need to execute in the portal, and I think we'll slowly get back there.
One of the best things that we can do and make it as soon as possible is get the hell rid of Patke. Get his ass gone so we can make an upgrade. I'm sick of this dude having anything to do with our linebacking scheme, dude. And I'm sick of him acting like he had something to do with our turnaround on special teams. Bro, the Borregales twins, the Borregales brothers, they came in and they changed that field goal kicking. And then just Lou Headley is just one guy. While he's been awesome, everything else in special teams has been lacking, though, except for the guys kicking the ball. Patke doesn't need to be at Miami anymore.
Guys, hit the subscribe button if you want to see Justin Flowe at the University of Miami. Hit the like button if you want to see Coach Patke gone from the University of Miami coaching staff for good. I better have 338 likes. That's all I'm going to say. Literally.
Yeah. I see no way in hell that Cristobal settles for a guy like Patke who can't develop and can't recruit. What is he at? He's adding no value. He's adding absolutely no value. Cristobal will make a better hire than that. I guarantee it.
Showboy Kane asks, what's good, fellas? What kind of defense do you think we run? 4-3, 3-4, or a hybrid? Very good question. That's something I don't know either. I really don't know because that's an outstanding question, man. I really don't.
I've been hearing more buzz about going to a 3-4 possibly and trying to have some of those athletic guys over the top be an impact in the pass game and run game. That's something that I've just heard as a rumor. Of course, I can't speak that's going to happen, but I've heard some mumblings about that possibly.
The Schumann run a 3-4?
I don't know what they honestly, I can't remember what they predominantly ran in Georgia this year. I know that they came in and out of some different sets occasionally. I know that they ran various sets at times. So I believe that he's the type of guy who can come in and out of stuff pretty easily.
I think it's good to have a mix of everything, in my opinion. I mean, at Miami, we saw a mixture of a 4-2-5 primarily, but then sometimes we went back to a 4-3. Early on in Diaz's tenure, we saw really a 4-3 defense. So I think it's a mix of everything.
What do you think about here at the comment down there? What do you think about a 4-2-5 type of defense?
With Manny Diaz, like what we saw with Manny?
Yeah, I mean, is there any chance at all that anything like that with the hybrid type roles, a striker and any of that could stay around, you think, or not?
Third and long, or that primarily, just second and long, maybe, like just situations where like we can give up 10 yards. Like we're just playing back,
Yeah.
That's really it. Third and long situations, or like occasionally on like a third down, second long. I mean, something like that. I don't think the entire game,
I'd like to see an adjustment made on defense, and I'd like to get rid of what we're doing Manny Diaz and get to something doing better, because we all saw it. Manny Diaz's defense, while temporarily might have performed well, there's no longevity in that defense.
Yeah, it's literally it's a gamble. It's a gamble.
Based off turnover.
If you don't get to the quarterback, you're screwed. And then if you run the football, you're giving up 5 yards. You're literally going to give up 5 to 10 yards every play if you don't get to the quarterback, if you don't rush the quarterback. That's really what it is.
Look how easy Max Strong destroyed us with just a couple counter runs, dude. I mean, it was nothing to take over Diaz's defense. Cristobal will do better. Absolutely.
All right, guys. We appreciate everyone watching. Over 330 people joining us live. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet to support, and the like button if you enjoy our content. We greatly appreciate everyone's support tonight, taking time out of your busy schedule to watch us live. I think we're planning to do another show this week with the Crib, if you're in social media, a recruiting show primarily to talk about the state of Miami Hurricanes football under Mario Cristobal and what it means for recruiting in Miami-Dade County, Broward, and Palm Beach County.
The Crib's the guy for South Florida. If you want the premier information in the high school sports scene there, he's the guy to give it to you, that's for sure.
Guys, thank you so much again for your time. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure to hit subscribe and the like button. And always, all about the U. Go Canes.
Go Canes.